I was thinking about this seal, and last night I got a message from Kevin, who made a little plate to go in here, like an insert with a bolt going through it, but it was M8. But also in the comments there was a comment to use M6x1 20mm long bolts, which is these, which I got a selection of down here. And I think this might work. Well, I know it'll work, because the bolt head, I got cap screws instead of bolts, and they just will not fit into there. But I'm going to use this old seal as an experiment. But if I use my die grinder here with a square end on and just touch it inside there, just to say touch it, look, we can now get a cap screw right nice and tight into that corner. Brilliant. Not sticking out too far, not doing anything else to get in any trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an experiment on this one, right, to see if this works. And then, so what I'm going to do first of all, I know where that goes because it's nice and tight in that corner. I don't really think I need to put a washer on because there's simply enough head on there to tighten down. And also it's going to lock in with thread, you know, like silicone seal or RTV anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to put that through the sandblaster, so not the sandblaster, but the soda blaster. Clean out this metal and I'll show you how I'm going to mark it out. To find where we're going to put this in here, just going to get a bit of paint, just a slight bit of paint on the end, like that, and then put it in and touch it, and we've got our mark where we want to drill it. So you know what I'm going to do next, eh? I'm going to drill it. Clean off my screwdriver on my vest cloth. Let's drill that out and see what happens. So there we go. There's the bolt. Now it comes out just where that place is, that hollow there is, that in the casting. I don't think it's too bad, but at least it's very close to here, to these bits here. So I'm happy with that. Now I can't use that as a template because I might be out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this correct seal, do exactly the same again, mark them out, because originally I thought, oh, I'll just mark them out like that, back to back, and pop them through. But it's not as easy as that. So here goes nothing. I'll do that, and that's going to work. And then I can use that as a template and just run the drill through, spot the back of the, push this seal on, put the bolts in, spot the back of the bearing cap and drill and tap it in place. How exciting. So there we are. Two bolts. They're in the back. That's going to be long enough to hold them on. They don't need to be monster tight. It's just something to stop that little bit of warpage. I'm going to use a gasket as well. So it's going to be belt and braces. So that's going to be really good. So now I'm going to go across and fit this seal and mark out the holes. So there you are. There's our two little dimples. So what we're going to do now is drill and tap those to M6. Right, I've already drilled and tapped this hole here. Notice I put plenty of tape on. This is about 3 or 4 layers thick because I don't want any dirt getting into this engine. It would have been nice to do this before we started, but never mind, we didn't. Now I've drilled the holes nice and square. I'm going to just take that out for a minute. Now I'm using 3 taps. This is an extremely fine taper tap to get things nice and square. Now usually when you buy a tap and die set, they're usually just like a finish, like a second tap. Now I'll put a little bit of oil on this, but it is cast iron, so it should tap out quite nice. And the tap's going nice and square. It's not going in an ellipse or something like that. It's going nice and round. I measured the depth and put some tape around the drill bit. I expect this would be a difficult job to do on the vehicle itself, you know, if you're under the car, well, I don't think it's the end of the world though. Well, you might as well do it now, because it has to work. You know, that distance from here to here is quite large, but if we pull it up to here, put the gasket and the sealer on, I think it's going to be fine. So there's our bottom. What we're going to do now is change the tap and put a second in, and I'll show you whose taps I use. And we blow them off. When you blow across the holes, if you don't blow into them, blow them across, you'll get better. These are the taps I'm using, Irwin Hansen taps. You've got a taper, a plug and a bottoming tap. And you see, this is the one you usually get in a tap set. You know, it's just this one, but you really finish them off with more of a square tap with a bottoming one. So I'm just going to run this one through. And then we can finish it off, and this should go through really nice. See, there's no resistance until we get right to the end, and it's just going to clear the bottom of that blind hole out. Because what we don't want is to put a square-ended bolt into a tapered hole, because it will jam. We don't want that. There you go. It's all about feel. You don't want to do it too much. That's only taking that lightest bit off the bottom, and it'll progressively go square. You can see the little bits of debris coming off. There we go. And now we'll finish it off with a plug. And you can see just that little bit that's come off there. Somewhere. The taps and die sets you get, you know, the cheapy ones from the shops, they're okay, they do a job. But they're really for chasing threads out or recutting threads that already exist. The dies that come with it to make a thread on a bolt, they're not split dies, and a split die means it's got a cut in it, so you can open it up with your die stock, make the thread a bit bigger, because you want them as nice and as tight a fit as you can get. So there we go, that's that one. Now once we've done this, I'll mark up the gasket and punch a hole in it corresponding to this these new holes. Because the thing is with this method, I can't guarantee they're exactly, you know, the same. I could have run off a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter all that much. As long as the holes correspond with the seal, it will be fine. Ideally, somebody said in the comments that we're going to send me the HS 2.8 seal, an old one, and I could use that then as a guide. To put these in again. Right, that's good. There we go. Now you'll be wondering why I've put a cap over here. It wasn't to stop dirt getting in. It's because this has got a new crank in. Well, the oil light bush wouldn't have been oiled, so overnight I've left it. I put a little cap with some engine oil in and pushed it on like that, and every time I turn it over the oil's getting soaked into that oil light bush. That's good. So the next thing, we're going to mark out our gasket, punch it out, and we'll assemble this. Again, same method applies. A little bit of paint on the end of the bolt, put it through the seal and touch the gasket, and that is where we're going to punch this through, just big enough for this bolt, no bigger. Just a little tip when you're punching holes. I've got the holes in the gasket here in the right place. I'll just put that to one side. Don't punch them on a metal bench or your back of your vise. Punch them on the end of a piece of wood. Not this bit, not that bit, this bit. Find out it'll punch really easy. The punches I'm using are these little cheap things here. You get them from, I don't know, dollar shop I think I got these from. But they're really handy. But first of all, I'm not really sure what size they are once they're finished, if you see what I mean, because they do open the holes out. So I punch into a piece of cardboard first. I just did, these two are the same, but that was the next size up, so you can see there's not much difference, but these are the ones we want, and that's that one. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that this surface here is free from grease and oil. I'm going to put Silver RTV on the gasket. It says that the hollow part here goes towards the engine. Now I'm going to double check on that for you, but that goes onto there like that, and that should all line up hunky-dory, we hope. Let me go and check that, double check. Right, I've got the remnants of the Loctite sealer, RTV, on the block face and on the gasket at the back, and also on this face I filled all the little holes in. I don't want to touch it because I'm up to the eyes in it. You must make sure you use plenty of brake cleaner on the end of the crank, make sure everything's sealed up nice. And now we should be able to fit the seal. There we go. It's a bit funny, it's a bit funny thing to fit. Right, let me get the bolts. Oops. Right. Take that off and discard that. Just make sure all this is going to line up. There we go. They say use guide bolts, but no, I've never used guide bolts. The seal should center itself, you know. Now before we do that, before we tighten them down properly, I'm going to put our Allen bolts in. I got the bolts in, they went in nice. You can see where it's starting to squidge the sealer out. .25 Newton meters is all it's going to get. Now I haven't got a Newton meter thing, torque measurement for these bolts here, but I'm just going to snug them down by hand. And I think that's a good job. I really do. I think that's nice. It's all nice and even. So the next thing, we're going to start. I've done the head, I've put the head on, I need to do the valves, but first of all I need to get some breakfast. But anyway, I'm going to clean all that lot off when we put, clean that squidgy stuff off when we put it back to, you know, before we put the end cover on, when it's dry. But I'm going to really leave it to dry now, and like I say, get some breakfast. See you later.